Welcome to the P.T.S.D podcast with your host, comedian and military veteran, Bernard the Laugh Therapist Hines, where we discuss PTSD, processing traumatic situations differently, and give you tools to help you overcome the stigma of seeking help. If you're ready to be inspired, then welcome to the stigma-free zone. Here's your host, the Laugh Therapist himself, Bernard Hines.
What up, good people? What up, good people? It's your boy, Bernard Hines, a.k.a. the Laugh Therapist, and welcome to the PTSD, Processing Traumatic Situations Differently podcast interview. Here, we try to inform, enlighten, and become advocates for one another as we learn more productive ways to process our trauma. Always remember, as a therapist, I am not licensed. I'm just medicated. Come on, y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in this evening, this morning, around the world, wherever you are tuning into. I have an awesome young man that I'm going to bring to the show, y'all. Mr. Alfred Carter. If you have seen my Facebook post, if you have really went to the YouTube and saw some great things this young man and his family has done, more importantly, his grandmother. But right now, what I'm going to do is bring this young man to the stage. Come on, y'all. Put your hands together for Mr. Alfred Carter Jr. What up, doctor? How you doing today?
Hey, Bernard. How you doing, man?
Man, I am doing good. It is such an honor to have you on this podcast interview today. Listen, I met this young man about a couple of weeks ago at a gala, the Flower Girls Gala. Shout out to Miss HeLa knows.
Shout out.
As my bishop always say, you never know who you sitting beside. We sitting at the table, and I'm just, we just jiving, we just talking trash. Everybody is laughing. And then, reading is fundamental, bruh. Reading is fundamental because your picture and everything was in the book. And then when you stood up and start, they said you can be the keynote speaker. I'm like, man, he was sitting right here. I didn't know. If I just read the book, I would have known. But man, I would just want to thank you for being here. And just, if you don't mind, just tell the people just a brief synopsis of who you are right now.
Well, first and foremost, Bernard, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's such an honor. I want to give glory to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Now. Hey, because without him, man, I wouldn't be here in your midst today. So, as you stated, my name is Alfred Lacks Carter Jr. I'm the grandson of Henrietta Lacks, the world-renowned mother of modern medicine, who HeLa cells have basically healed the world. Mm-hmm. My mother is Deborah Lacks, who was the youngest daughter of Henrietta Lacks. And my mother grew up not knowing who her mother was because Henrietta passed when my mother was only 2 years old. Okay. So she grew up without a mom, and she just was determined and had the will and desire to know who her mother was, just to know the basic things of like what kind of food did she like? Did she like to cook? Did she like to dance? Because, it was kept a secret about our grandmother.
Yeah.
For so many years.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. Now, before we even really get into the crux of the story and the crux of your life, as I always say, as we start talking about trauma and stuff like that, if you are feeling emotionally overwhelmed by today's content, please step away and regroup. We trying to be real. We trying to be open. We're trying to allow somebody to heal and that person to make and hopefully make the first step to getting some healing. So if you don't mind, tell me a little bit about your military life first.
Well, back in high school, I think it was like my junior year, and I just, I made up in my mind that I wanted to go in the military. So my thoughts was to go into the Navy.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, how about that? And, so when I got in high school, my 12th grade year, I played football, and it was like 4 other guys that were going in the Marine Corps.
Okay.
It was like, man, you might as well go in with us on the buddy program and It's going to be good. The uniforms are nice.
Yeah.
That was the selling point that they had, the dress blues. And I'm like, come on, man.
Yes.
So, I went in June 8th, 1984. I was in 3rd Battalion H Company, platoon 3076.
Okay.
Graduated. I went to CNE school in 29 Palms, aka 29 Stumps, California. And I was a communication center operator, man. And as I tell a story, I always tell people I was very immature at the time. I was dealing with childhood trauma, things that were implanted in me, seeds that were planted in me that I didn't even know were there until later on in life as I got older and I got help and therapy. So when I went in the Marine Corps, man, it was like a ball of confusion to me.
Got it.
I stayed in trouble.
Right.
I always say, when we was at the Flower Girls Gala and I was seeing pictures of Miss Helen Noel with all them stripes, I said, girl, all them stripes you got. I said, every time they gave me a stripe, they took it right back.
Yes, sir. Because I think Miss Helen Noel was at one of the highest rankings in the Air Force when she was in there. Wow. Yes, sir. But I got a question. Did you get in trouble by yourself, or were you did people help you get in trouble, or you just followed the wrong crowd?
Well, actually, it was a combination of both, really. Okay. I witnessed some things.
Right.
I experienced some things, and it starting off early as boot camp, which really traumatized me. And it just was a snowball effect after that. After I got out of boot camp, and I went to California. I got popped on a urinalysis.
Oh, okay. If y'all don't know what that is, that's when you go to the bottle and the bottle comes back shaky. That's what it is.
Right. Well, Bob's just smoking.
Just smoking. Melted the bottom of
it. Yeah. So that was just a way of me trying to.
That's right.
Deal with my trauma and my PTSD.
But I have a question though. How did it, going from the East Coast of Baltimore to the West Coast of California, was that an adjustment?
Yes, it was an adjustment, but as they say in the Rooms of Narcotics Anonymous, no matter where you go, you're going to be right there. So, me, moving from the East Coast to the West Coast, I was just taking my places from one coast to the next coast.
Come on now.
Yes, sir.
I always share with people, if you don't go and seek help, you're going to take you into every situation.
Absolutely. And that's what I did.
Yeah. So that is powerful, y'all. That is powerful. Look, we're talking to Mr. Alfred Lacks Taylor. You threw that Lacks in on me. Alfred Lacks Carter Jr. That's what we got. Sir. That's what we got. Listen, you also mentioned we got a book we're gonna talk. Well, we ain't gonna talk about it. You folks gonna have to read it first, but we're gonna bring some little excerpt from it. So you did something that I was always scared to do, but wanted to do or thought I did. You went AWOL.
Yes, sir.
Absent without leave. You just left.
Yes.
Wow.
And I did it on numerous occasions.
What?
I did it on numerous occasions because it started off as restriction, barracks restriction. All I could do is go to work and come back to the base. And I was young, man. I was young, and I didn't know how to process information. I didn't know how to process structure, discipline. These are all the things that I thought I was going to get when I went into the Marine Corps. But it was like a an adverse effect. It was like, because like I said, I was immature and I was already running from myself.
Okay.
And, they just, they would tell me I can't leave the base, and they'd take 2/3 of my pay for 2 months. As long as I paid my car note and my insurance, I was good, man.
Look, that's the wrong way of saying the Lord gave you a way of escape. That's the wrong way.
Hey,
Oh,
man.
my goodness.
Things were happening back home. Parties and I had a female friend that I thought I was in love with, and all those things coupled together, man, just made me like, you know what, I'm going home. And
that's powerful you say that, because being in the military, I was on the East Coast, or right around, I was close to home. So I could go home on a 3-day weekend or a 4-day weekend. You was way in California. You couldn't just get in your car and come home for a 4-day weekend.
Yeah, well, the AWOL didn't start until I got to Jacksonville, North Carolina.
Because you was closer to home.
Because I was closer to home. Now, when I was in school in California, I was out there with I would walk the base, and I kept seeing these 2 cars with Maryland tags. And I'm like, they're from back home. I wonder who's driving these cars.
Right.
And I finally ran into both the guys, and I knew one of them. He was from the same neighborhood. I had no idea that he was in the military.
Wow.
And the reason why I didn't recognize the car, because when he came home from boot camp, he wrecked his car. So his mother and his dad got him another car to drive to California in. So that's why I didn't recognize the car. Okay. But we hooked up, man. Like every weekend we would go to Palm Springs, LA, Yuma, Arizona. We was getting it in.
And that's one thing about the military, boy. You find somebody from your home state, you lose your mind.
Oh, man. You lose your mind, Jack.
You're in another state somewhere, another country, you find somebody, you lose your mind.
Oh, man. We loved UCLA. Oh, right. We used to go over there to the campus. We was over there so much they thought we were students.
See, that's how it happens. But listen, you brought up something. You said something about Narcotics Anonymous.
Yes, sir.
How did that play in your life?
Well, Narcotics Anonymous, when you have the disease of addiction, you have to educate yourself. Okay. And if you don't, you're just gonna it's gonna be a cycle, just returning back to the same thing all the time, because there's so many pitfalls and the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous and the literature that they share with you is like a handbook, a manual to living life without the use of drugs. Because, when you start using drugs, and especially at an early age, like 17, 18 years old, like it stunts your growth mentally. Okay. So once that growth starts, and again, after you stop using, you have to revert back to something, the literature, and it's going to teach you how to live without the use of drugs. And it was instrumental in my life, because I had stopped using drugs before, but I wasn't in recovery. I was just abstinent.
Say that again. Wow, that is powerful.
I wasn't in recovery. I was just abstinent. And they teach you in the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous that you have to change people, places, and things. And the first time I didn't, even though I stayed away from the drugs for a couple of years, but the disease of addiction is cunning and is baffling, and it'll use things that you love. And like I said, there's pitfalls, right? And anything can trigger you, your relapse, a death in your family, or the loss of a job, anything, because it's raining outside. Right. If you got reservations, and if you haven't made up your mind that, I no longer want to use drugs, It's always going to be a reservation in the back of your mind. And when that time comes up, you're going to take that ticket and you're going to punch it and you're going to use drugs.
Wow, man, that is powerful, y'all. We talking to Mr. Alfred Carter Jr., y'all. He would be dropping some more nuggets. So I just need for y'all to just sit back, buckle up. We already up into the interview, but we gonna keep pushing for some more. Now, in your speech, and as I was reading your book, one thing that jumped out to me, I know you said you did a little time, and you said people think that prison is supposed to be a rehabilitation place, but it really is not.
No, absolutely not. You know, prison is a warehouse.
Wow.
And it all it is a money-making scheme for the rich.
Okay.
You know, the same people that own media companies and you know, television companies, and these are the same people that own prison.
Correct.
So, you know, they market music and TV shows, and they focus on our young youth,
Okay.
And you know, it just paints a perception that these things are okay, and when you go to prison, it's not what you think. So, you know, when you go to prison, you know, for myself, speaking for myself and a lot of guys that I've met some great guys that been behind that wall. You know, we've made mistakes. We paid our debt to society, but you have to rehabilitate yourself. And that means reading. That means taking online college courses. I did all that. I've taken all kinds of self-help groups, anger management, thinking and deciding to change, parenting skills. And I even took a course. It was called victim awareness.
Okay.
Because, you know, when you out there using drugs and you victimizing people, you're not even thinking about the ripple effect that you're causing on people in your community, and not only people that you don't know, but your own family.
Correct.
You know, when you go to prison, you're not only going to prison, but your mom, your dad, your sister, your brothers, your aunties, your uncles, everybody is going to prison. You know, because when they come see you, where they coming to see you? In prison.
Correct.
When you're calling home, you're calling from prison. When they press that 0.
Right.
You know, so you have to think about these things before you make the mistakes and make bad choices and decisions like I did in the past.
Wow. My goodness. Well, you are doing some great things from your experience. And I don't like when people say, well, if you don't want to see how jail look, then don't go. Don't do nothing wrong. We all have done stuff that we shouldn't. I say, oh, okay. I'm gonna say, because everybody don't say all. 99% of us done some stuff that had we got caught, we probably been doing some time.
Yes, sir.
Probably been doing some time. So I just want to appreciate you for just, you know, talking about that and stuff like that. But I know, if you don't mind sharing, I know you shared it in your story about your son.
Yes.
About your son. That was a touching moment. And if you don't mind just sharing a little bit about that.
Okay. When I went to prison in 2001, my son, Alfred Carter Jr, a.k.a. Trey, he didn't like his name, Alfred. I told him, I said, man, when you grow up, you're going to love your name, because I was the same way. But he was 4 years old when I went to prison. You know, his mother really didn't make too many attempts to keep the line of communications open. My mother would bring him to see me. She would bring my nephew. And then I had various family members that would pick him up and bring him to see me, just to keep that relationship going.
Okay.
I would write them letters and everything like that. And when I was released in 2016, 2016, 2001 to 2016, that's 15 years I did.
Wow.
And my son was 19,
Mm-hmm.
and he was already entrenched in the street life.
Okay.
And I tried to explain to him, this isn't something that you want to embark on. Like,
Correct.
This life isn't for you. You don't have to revert to the streets. Like, Dad did that, and you see what it took me. You see where
Correct.
it took me. It took me to prison. It took me away from you. It took me away from your family. So, he tried, and but it was just a part of his lifestyle. And in 2020, 5 days before after his birthday, because I remember talking to him on his birthday, September the 16th, in 2020, and I talked to him and wished him a happy birthday and everything. And 5 days later, he was murdered in the streets of Baltimore at the early age of 24 years old. And it was just like a knife being, stuck in my chest. And, I really don't think that pain will ever subside.
Okay.
We do things to try to ease the pain. But losing a child and have to bury a child is very overwhelming. And it's something that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, because it's not natural. It's not normal for a parent to bury a child. Your child is supposed to bury you. And, in a lot of ways, I blame myself.
Okay.
Because I got caught up in the system. I got caught up in the trap. And if I would have navigated differently, if I would have chose a different path, I wouldn't have went to prison, and I would have been there for my son to raise him the way he should have been raised, with structure, with morals and principles, and not letting the streets raise him. The streets raised him, and the streets took him away. So I blame myself, man. And the only way that I can get over that is to help other young men not to follow in those footsteps. And if you are going in that direction, I'm here to be inspiration,
correct,
and motivation to let people know that, listen, we make wrong choices and decisions, but you can't let your past define who you are. Your past only qualifies you for your future. So all the things that I've been through, it just qualifies me, for the man that I am today, sitting here in front of you. And I have a story to tell. I'm transparent with my story. And, I wanted to help somebody else and bless somebody else. It might not bless you, but it might bless your child, or it might bless a family member.
Right.
Because we all have people in our family, people that use drugs, or people that's in prison and things of that nature. And what we need to understand is, we don't wake up saying we're going to use drugs. We don't wake up saying, I want to go out here and rob somebody and go to prison. No, these are seeds that were planted when you were a child, and they just manifest as you get older. I share with people in my book that, my 12 years in high school, I went to 10 different schools.
Wow.
And, that psychologically was a deterrent in my life when I got older, because I didn't understand why I couldn't keep a job. I could get a job.
Okay.
Easy, good jobs that when I was in my early 20s, their girlfriend, I got better jobs than their dads, you know?
Right.
And relationships, like I didn't know how to process relationships and because I didn't know what a healthy relationship looked like.
Yes,
because
Lord.
when I tried to meet friends in school, the next year I was somewhere else.
Correct.
And I think after like my 6th grade year, I became withdrawn because I didn't want to lose. I didn't want to make friends and then lose them. So I stayed to myself and became not a full-blown introvert, but I was just like chill, laid to myself,
Right.
And
But I want to ask you this one question, and this is powerful. This, when you were saying it, it was powerful to me. Most people who are military brats, they go to school, different schools and stuff like that, because the parents, military moved them around. But you wasn't a military brat, correct?
That's correct. I wasn't.
So you was in your hometown going to 10. That right there is trauma.
And the reason why is because another underlying, layer that I had to peel back and to recognize why I was going through what I was going through is because of the domestic violence that was going on in my house between my dad and my mom. So when my mother finally divorced my dad, he still was, traumatizing her and me and my sister. Okay. So to avoid these kinds of situations, she would move. Like he'll find out where we live and, come to the house all times of night, drinking and she would have to call the police and, so then we would move somewhere else. And, not only that, my mother, she protected myself and my sister. So if she moved in the neighborhood and she found out that neighborhood wasn't conducive to the growth and the development of her children, she wanted to go somewhere else.
Right.
Somewhere else. So, she got the nickname Gypsy. She got the nickname Gypsy from some of her family members. But, I just, I don't fault her or blame her for nothing that I'm going through because I'm grown and I made my own choices and decisions. So, it's just powerful just knowing where you came from. That way you know where you're going.
That's powerful. That's powerful. And as I always say, as you get older and you look back on your parents' life, you understand what they went through, and you can't hold everything like I'm this way because this. No, we need to break the cycle, go seek help, find out what's going on, and get healed.
Right.
Period.
I agree.
But listen, we're gonna talk about your book at the end. But right now, I want to jump into a powerful thing that I heard about long time ago. But then meeting you, and I'm like, I'm sitting with a celebrity. And I like when you said, all y'all my cousins.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about your grandmother, Miss Henrietta Lacks.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, my grandmother, Henrietta Lacks, was born in Roanoke, Virginia. And she moved to Clover, Virginia, which is maybe like an hour and 45 minutes west of Richmond, Virginia. And she grew up with her dad and, working on the tobacco fields and things like that. And her and my granddad, David, they had their first 2 children down there, which was my Uncle Lawrence, who just passed away maybe like 6 months ago. He was 88. And my oldest aunt, Elsie. Then my granddad, picked up and moved to Baltimore.
Okay.
For better opportunities. So he was working at Bethlehem Steel, Spurs Point Shipyard. and he retired in 1977. And they were living in Turner Station, which was a community that was developed for people of color to work at the shipyard.
Okay.
In 1951, my grandmother was experiencing pain in her vaginal and abdomen area, and she was originally seen by. Now, this is a nugget that I'm dropping for y'all.
Drop the nuggets, Doctor.
This is a nugget. She was originally seen by Dr. William Wade, who was an African-American doctor in Turner Station. Now, let me back up for a second. Turner Station was a thriving community back then. They had 7 churches. They had a bank. They said the money would circulate in Turner Station 7 times before it left Turner Station. So many great people have came from Turner Station, which I think a lot of people don't know. The astronaut, Mr. Caribbean.
Correct.
He's from Turner Station. Kevin Clash, the voice of Elmo, he's from Turner Station. Grant Hill's dad, he's from Turner Station.
One of the best Cowboys out ever to play with the Cowboys.
Yes, Calvin Hill. He has a court named after him called Calvin Hill Court. In Turner Station.
Okay.
And Dr. William Wade, who was instrumental in getting Calvin Hill to go to college, he was the first one who diagnosed my grandmother with cervical cancer. And he referred her to Johns Hopkins Hospital, where she went, and she was seen. Initially, she was seen by Dr. Howard Jones, and they diagnosed her with cervical cancer. And at this time, George Gay, he was trying to find a immortal cell line. So he was taking cells from people without them even knowing, without their consent and knowledge. And, but most cells, they would, you put them in a petri dish, they might last for a couple hours, then they die.
Okay.
But my grandmother's didn't.
Wow.
When he took her cells and put them in a petri dish, not only did they stay alive, Renell, but they multiplied. They were multiplying every 24 hours. Unbeknownst to my grandmother, my granddad, or none of my family members. This man never divulged this information to us. So
they just using your grandma's cells all willy-nilly, and ain't nobody know.
Yes.
Wow.
And so at the time she was still in the hospital, and they were not trying to save her. They were using her as a guinea pig, like a lab rat.
Wow.
They took live radium and sewed it on her cervix, which was burning her from the inside out. And the excruciating pain, I could just imagine the hell that she went through. And 6 months after she initially went to Johns Hopkins, she finally succumbed to her cancer. The day that she passed away was the day that George Guy had a press conference on the steps of Johns Hopkins Hospital, telling the world that he has found the first immortal cell line.
What?
And named it HeLa. Right? And he named it HeLa, and it was because of the first 2 letters of her name, Henrietta, and the first 2 letters of her last name, Lacks. So HeLa. But He never said it came from Henrietta Lacks. He told the world that these cells came from somebody named Helen Lane, Henry Lawson. These were the names that they were throwing around.
Oh my God.
To cover up that these immortal cells came from an African-American woman.
Wow.
In Baltimore, Maryland. Now, at this time, polio was running rampant. And Roosevelt, who had polio, he was part of the Warm Springs Foundation, who treated only white people for like paralysis and things of that nature from the polio. And him and Basil O'Connor, they found out that it was some work being done at Tuskegee. And a lot of people don't know Tuskegee was the first cell line factory. They was producing HeLa cells like it was going out of style. So they kept the information from our family for over 20 years. So, my granddad and my uncles and my mom, they knew nothing of this immortal cell line. Here, his wife and their mother was healing the world, literally.
Wow. Literally healing the world with no recognition.
With no recognition. Her cells were used to create the vaccine to polio. Her cells were used to create the vaccine to COVID-19, which was, one of the last things
still using it.
Wow. Her cells were sent into outer space to test zero gravity before astronauts went up there.
Wow.
And right now, her cells, they have multiplied so much. And they're all over the world, Vernal. They're all over the world. They are in institutions and laboratories all over the world. People are using HeLa cells in all kinds of studies and experimentations. It's the go-to tool in medicine. So that's why I tell people, if you use lotion, toothpaste, which all these things are tested with the HeLa cell. Everything. And if you've taken a vaccine or if you've taken a pill, you too have HeLa cells in you. That's why I say we're cousins.
We're cousins. We cousins. And it was a big fight, with your family till Miss Oprah Winfrey took it up, and I mean she didn't take it up, but she did a movie about it, correct?
Yes, correct. Okay, so Oprah, the first initial book that was written by Rebecca Skloot, she contacted my mother. And at this time, people had already came and tried to, lie to our family,
right?
Trying to get blood. They're telling them it's for one thing, but really they trying to see if, the descendants have this immortal cell line.
Got it.
So, the family was just fed up with people coming and trying to ravage and trying to take advantage of the family. But like I said, my mother wanted to know who her mother was. And when she was doing her own investigations, trying to find out different things from Johns Hopkins and trying to find out about her sister who passed away at the young age of 15 in a hospital, a mental institution here in Maryland, like she was like that. like that brick wall behind you.
Okay.
You know, they was brick walling her. They wasn't giving her any information. But when Rebecca, who was a white woman from Oregon, her and my mother partnered up, and she used Rebecca like a key to get all the information, because they would give the information to Rebecca, but they wouldn't give it to my mother.
Wow.
You know, and you know, it's normalized racism, man.
Correct.
And it's still prevalent, you know, today. And so, my mother, she wanted to know everything about Henrietta. So
Awesome.
the book was written and it was published in 2009. And sadly, my mother passed away May 12th, 2009. I think the book came out in October, November.
Okay.
After my mother passed away. And before my mother passed away, her and Rebecca, they were at odds because, my mother was about money. My mother wasn't doing all these things just for notoriety.
Correct.
You know, she wanted money too. My mother was a licensed barber. She was a cosmetologist. She was a licensed nail tech. She had a CDL driver's license. She used to drive a school bus. And she was an inventor. She invented a baby bottle warmer. Wow. And I have all the specs and everything downstairs. I might can get a check from somebody because I know somebody.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So, her and Rebecca, they were beefing about, about publishing and basically with a contract. So when my mother passed away, it gave Rebecca the green light to tell the world that my mother didn't want anything. All my mother wanted was for her to create a foundation, the Henrietta Lacks Foundation, to help the Henrietta Lacks' descendants go to college and for medical and for emergencies. And when my son was murdered, I was like $4,000 short. And I reached out to Rebecca and I filled out the application and I never heard anything back.
Wow.
So, I just really feel like she was just a person that came and took advantage. She was an advantage.
Again. Right. Somebody took advantage again.
And she got wealthy off this book. Was on the New York's bestseller list for years. It's required reading for a lot of universities and high schools. She's making a lot of money off this book using our family. Now, when I was released in 2016 from prison, I was promoting her book because they were paying me to go out and do these speaking engagements. But Bernard, the more that I came back to reality after doing 15 years in prison and starting to process everything that was going on, I understood that this book isn't portraying our family in a light that is correct. Like it was a lot of embellishments. It was a lot of lies, straight up lies. Like she lied on me. She said that I received my GED when I was in prison. I'm a high school graduate. It's in my book. I put the picture in my book.
I saw, yeah.
It was no mention that I was in the Marines. I put the picture in the book. So I wanted to create and I wanted to change the narrative because she was writing our story, focusing on and directing it to a certain demographic of people, which wasn't us, So, like I said, the book got a lot of notoriety, and Oprah bought the rights to the book, her and HBO, and they made The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, the movie, which was an HBO movie. And I was a consultant for the movie, and that's when Oprah and I, became close because she was playing my mother in the movie. So she would call me and ask me different questions. And when she was in town or if I was in Atlanta, we would go to dinner and talk. It was a couple of times we was at dinner, Bernard, and people walking by like,
yeah,
that ain't Stedman. Who is that? Maybe I need to call TMZ.
Look, I ain't stepping. I'm gonna step in right now.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, in Oprah, she's a I know she's getting dragged through the mud right now for a lot of things, and a lot of people she has been connected to. But she did a good job portraying my mother, and she dropped a lot of jewels on me. And I just thank her for giving me the opportunity to see my grandmother, who was portrayed by Renee Elise Goldsberry, because I never saw my grandmother.
Correct.
Living,
Okay.
Because my mother was only 2 years old when she passed away. So just to bring everybody to life
right
on the screen, it was surreal, man. And, I just, I wept like a baby when I saw the screening of it because, myself and my sister and a couple family members, we got a chance to watch it with the director who was tremendous. So yeah, the book was nominated for an Emmy. I got a chance to go to LA to the Emmy.
Come on now.
Man, had me a touch of look. And Bernard, listen, man, we from the East Coast, right? So listen, I had to go correct, man. And I want to shout out and throw a plug to some African guys who has their own clothing line called Connoisseur Paris.
Connoisseur Paris.
And man, they hooked me up with this tux, man. And I swear, if I had $1 for everybody said, man, you the best dressed person in here, I wouldn't have to work no more. I'm telling you, man. Hey, I was sharp. Look, I was clean as the board of health.
Clean as the board. Listen, how can somebody right now go back and maybe, I know the movie was in 2017, correct? When it came out. How can we go back and see it now? Is it can we Google it and it's some Google?
Yeah, it should pop right up. Or
okay.
Go to HBO. It's on HBO.
Okay, it's called The
Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks.
The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. But man, I appreciate what you're doing talking to me, man. You enlighten, I mean, it's so much stuff we could talk about, but you have been dropping nuggets, and we're going to save a lot of stuff for folks to read in this book.
Yes,
but
sir.
What promoted you to write this book?
Well, writing is therapy to me.
Come on. Processing it,
man. My mother always used to tell me, because of all the things that I've been through in my life, she used to always say, you need to write a book. It'll be a bestseller. And I think she was being facetious when she was saying these things.
Okay.
But it was the truth. And so I started writing this book when I was in prison, and just journaling and just jotting down things, and it just started all coming together, like especially after I got out in 2016, and I'm going around, I'm doing speaking engagements at all these universities, and I've been to Africa. I went to Cape Town, South Africa, to speak on the importance of clinical trials.
Wow.
Yeah, man, Henrietta Lacks, man, my grandmother left a platform for myself and my family to become successful, wealthy human beings. And, I said, man, I got to take advantage of this. And I just knew that everything that I've been through, because like I said, I've been through the fire, y'all.
Okay.
Like I've been through it, you name it. I've been shot at, I've been stabbed, you know what I'm saying? I've been on drugs, I've been to prison, I've been in abusive relationships, I've never,
Correct.
no, to me,
Right.
and a lot of people don't think that kind of stuff exists, but it does. And it don't always have to be physical. It could
Correct.
be mental abuse.
That's the one.
And, I don't, I'm not throwing a shot at the ladies, but that's how women fight us mentally because they know they can't physically beat us. So
correct.
It's a mental thing. But yeah, man, I wrote the book and I just want this book, man, to bless somebody and to help somebody.
Well, listen, you can go and get the book right now. ShadowsOfImmorality.com. ShadowsOfImmorality.com.
No. Immortality.
Immortality. Good God. Boy.
Hey, you changing the whole narrative.
Hey.
Immoral to immortal.
It's on the screen. Listen, I had to get you back because you called me Varnell. But
right,
I ain't going to say.
But I caught myself, though.
I know. Listen, we've been through something. Our brains is still functioning.
Man, a fair exchange ain't no robbery.
My bad. Listen, y'all. The Shadows of Immortality.com. The Shadows of Immortality.com. Listen, man, it has been an honor. It has been my pleasure to have you on this podcast. Listen, this ain't the last because I heard that me and you are part of the gala now forever and ever. Amen. I don't know.
Amen.
Yep, so we
listen. I want to shout out Mr. Helen D. Lowe, man.
Yes.
And that Flower Girls Gala
was awesome.
Was so powerful.
Yes.
And I had such a wonderful time. And like you said, you never know who you're sitting next to.
You never know.
Be careful how you entertain a stranger because they might be your angel. And the lady that was sitting next to me, she prompted me to go to the VA. She said, "You can get a check." And look, this week coming, I went and got my DD-214 because
Come on now,
Bernard, a lot of things that I went through in life, it started from the military.
Yes, it did.
All of depression that I went through.
Right.
There were so many things that I went through, man, and I'm going to get a check, Bernard.
Man, if I, I was sitting at the table, if you had told me, I would have told you that.
Yes, sir.
Listen, how can people follow you on social media?
My name is Alfred Carter Jr. on Facebook and Alfred Carter on Instagram.
That is awesome. Listen, y'all.
I'm also on LinkedIn.
You also on LinkedIn. Listen,
yes,
if y'all heard the puppy in the background,
yeah.
Listen, I understand. I have two, and they run the house. And when you said at the gala, you said something. You said, "But now I have a dog." And
right.
is. Listen, man. You are doing an awesome work. I know you're speaking to youth. I know you're going around the country. It is an honor to have you. And I'm telling you, you can go to HeLaHouse.org, HeLa house.org, and hear more about his grandmother, Miss Henrietta Lacks. Right. Is there any parting words you want to give to the people?
Hey, man, I just want to thank you for having me on. I've had a great time. This is a catapult to my day.
Come on now.
I got up this morning and I had 25 books I had to sign that I'm sending out today to a young lady named Holly Betts. Okay. Her mom is my business partner at Governor State University in Chicago, and I did a engagement, and so I got 25 books. I signed them, and I'm going to send them to her. I'm going to the Orioles game at 4:00.
Come on now.
Yeah, me and a couple of friends, we're taking the kids to the Oriole game. And, man, listen, my life has been, it's been a blessing for me to do the things that I'm doing now, considering, what I've been through and where I came from. I just want to encourage everybody to stay prayed up. Stay prayed up. Love yourself first and love your loved ones. And just keep moving forward, man. And like Bernard said, get the book.
Get the book.
There's a lot of hidden gems in here. My information is in the back. My actual cell phone number and my email is in the back. So feel free to call me and say, "Well, I ain't understand this part," or "Can you give me clarification on this part?" Hey, man, I'm an open book. So like I said, I'm transparent, and I'm here to be a blessing to other people. Thank you.
Good, man. And look, you're a very smart individual, because when you signed my book, you said, "Bro, you are truly blessed and talented." I laughed a lot. You a smart brother too.
Hey, listen, man. Look, I told my wife, because I'm gonna tell you, some people reputations precede them, and like you said, reading is fundamental. And I read that you was the laugh therapist and all this. And I'm like, yeah, right. I said, you gonna get up there and tell some old corny jokes. And look, man, I laughed. Man, you real, and I laughed so hard, man. I'm telling you. And then the most powerful part about it is you don't use no profanity. You're professional. You're a God-fearing man. You're respectful, and you're real. And that's all it takes, man, is to be real. Like, you got these comedians out here that's being put on a pedestal by the powers that be, and they're pushing this agenda, and I don't even laugh at them, man. It's because it's not funny to me, because first of all, you talking about stuff that you probably never even experienced. So don't sit up there and try to portray and perpetrate the fraud, as we used to say back in the 80s. Don't perpetrate the fraud, but man, I
appreciate it, brother.
It was very funny, man. And I was impressed. Impressed.
Both of us got one agenda: mental health awareness. That's our agenda. Listen, bro, I can honestly say I love you as a brother. I love what you're doing. Keep doing it. Follow this brother, y'all. Please follow him and just bring him out to speak. Bring him out to speak. And I'm telling you, he's raw in a professional way, and he's funny, and he's real. You won't be sleeping while he's speaking. I'll tell you that right now.
And I'll have my hair out when I come.
Yes, sir. Man, I want to thank you again. And right now, you are released from the stigma-free zone. Continue to live stigma-free.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.